Okay, need to have a bit of a chat about something very important to the hobby. And it's not me this time, it's somebody else. It's Raphael Trappy, the guy behind Team Blacksheep. You know, the people that bring you stuff like the Caparina Flying Wing and the Team Blacksheep Discovery and what else they got? The little boards you put in your goggles so you can use the Boscam or the other 5.8 gigahertz systems. Lots of cool little stuff they make. Innovative little company, they make some good gear. I'm reviewing this on my RC Model Reviews channel. Go there if you want to see part 1. Part 2 will be out shortly. But anyway, this guy Raphael Trappy, you've probably seen his videos. If you haven't, then I'll put the link in the description of this video to the Nasty Cop 420 site, which is the Team Blacksheep website. They've got great FPV stuff from all over the world. These guys travel the world, do really cool videos, put them up on YouTube, and it's a way of promoting the products they sell as well, I guess. But it's great entertainment, really. It's good stuff. Go and watch it if you haven't watched it now. One of the big problems with FPV, of course, is that, you know, the authorities, they don't understand, so they're not too happy. And what has happened is that sort of FPV has been tolerated to a degree by the various national airspace authorities. Now let's talk about them. You've got the FAA in the United States. You've got CAA, which is in New Zealand, Canada, Australia. You've got, New Zealand, Canada, and the UK. You've got CASA, which is Australia's National Airspace Authority. Now, these people have a very difficult task. They usually get bugger all money, and they have very limited staff, and their responsibility is to keep the national airspace safe from dangers, which means lots of regulations, lots of rules, lots of paperwork, lots of bureaucracy. You know, you can't have a fart without getting permission if it involves aircraft. So that's really important. And by and large, they don't do too bad a job of it. But it seems that when they come to this, you know, this new technology with model aircraft, they really don't have a clue. They've made it clear that there's a lot of stuff they don't like, but they haven't really been very clear on why they don't like it. It's probably because they don't understand it. If you went to most of these airspace administrators and said, how many of you have flown beyond visual line of sight FPV? There wouldn't be any hands going up. They don't know, but we know it's bad, so we're gonna stop it because it's, well, you know, we haven't done it, but it must be bad. Surely it must be bad. It's new. We don't understand new. We only, you know, that's why we have Lycoming engines and things that have got, you know, designed in the 40s and built in the 50s. You know, we understand old, we're pretty old ourselves. And maybe I'm just being a bit unfair, but that's the impression you tend to get with anything to do with aviation. It takes decades for stuff to be approved, and everything is miles behind the time. And the new stuff is frowned upon, you know, ultralights, glass cockpits, not too sure about that. What's wrong with dials and gyros and, you know, spinny roundy bits? It's kind of the perception you get. But back to the model stuff. Now, Raphael, the guy from Team Blacksheep, he's just been hit with a $10,000 fine from the FAA. Now, a lot of people said, it had to happen. You know, he's pushed his luck, he's done dangerous stuff. He's flown, you know, near people, put people's lives in danger and, you know, flown in the worst places, over the Statue of Liberty and over the Golden Gate Bridge. Terrorists could have seen that. They could have done the same thing and strapped, you know, naked virgins to the bottom of their models and dropped them in the middle of Manhattan. All this kind of rubbish, right? But I've got to admit, some people like what he does, some people hate it. They think he's damaging the hobby, bringing it into disrepute, making it a target for lawmakers, you know, going to end us all in trouble. Other people say he's doing a great thing, he's promoting FPVs, showing how wonderful the hobby is. Now, okay, I'm sort of not going to take sides on this because it's irrelevant to what I'm trying to discuss today. What I'm trying to discuss today is the ridiculous policies, and I say policies, that the airspace administrators are rolling out to try and deal with things like, you know, these FPV models, and also the important issue of what you can do with a model aircraft before it becomes illegal. Now you might think, we know that. You can't fly above 400 feet in many countries. You can't, you know, fly down the main street of a city because that's too dangerous. But the thing is that the most dangerous thing you can do with a model aircraft, apparently, and this is based on surveying all the different airspace national administrators, the most dangerous thing you can do with a model aircraft is accept money for flying it. Honestly, that is. Because they all have a regulation that says you cannot accept money for flying a model aircraft. Once you accept a single red cent for doing something with your model plane, it's no longer a model plane. It becomes an unmanned aerial system. And we have a list of regulations or policies this long you've got to comply with. And you can't do a damn thing. You can't fart, burp or dribble without our permission if it involves an unmanned aerial system. It's that stupid. Honestly, it is. And in most countries, all unmanned aerial systems, all craft designated to be unmanned aerial systems, are treated equally. So this little Ladybird, FPV Ladybird, 48 grams, If I fly this and someone pays me a cent to fly it, or I make a cent of income by flying it, it is treated exactly the same as if I was flying a Predator drone over Afghanistan and blowing the snot out of insurgents on the ground below. Honestly, I kid you not. That is honestly the truth of the matter. That's the way it is in America. It's the way it is in New Zealand. It's the way it currently is in Australia, but it's changing there. I'll talk about that later. So that's the stupidity of the people who are charged with preserving the national airspace in respect to these models. Now, this is why Trappy's got himself in trouble, because if he'd flown a model aircraft around this, fill in, a university in the States hired him to do some FPV shots around the campus, you know, for marketing promotional purposes. And so he said, yeah, fine. They paid him money. He flew his right-wing Zephyr. It's a foam flying wing. Flew it around the campus, you know, under a few sort of overpasses and along a railway line, stuff like that. And they paid him money. But the National Airspace Administrator, the FAA, said, oh, it wasn't a model plane because he took money. And therefore, although there are not many rules for model aircraft, I mean, the rules for model aircraft are very, very minimal. Can't fly over a certain altitude, can't fly within a certain distance from an airport, you know, and basically apart from that, you know, go for it, guys, because model aircraft are toys. They're just toys. You know, you can't do much harm with a model aircraft, especially a foam one. So that's what they think. But as soon as you take one red cent, it's an unmanned aerial system. It has all damaging, lethal potential of a Predator drone. So they said, well, Trappy, you took money and you flew an unmanned aerial system without our authority, because you've got to get an authority. If you want to fly a UAS, you've got to fill out all the forms, jump through the hoops, vault the hurdles, get the necessary expressed authorities to operate. You know, they've got to give you permission to do every damn thing. You know, you can't even, you know, blink without getting it signed off by somebody if you're flying an unmanned aerial system. He didn't have that authority because, let's face it, he's flying a model aircraft. But no, the administrators say it was an unmanned aerial system. So they're throwing the book at him, hit him with a $10,000 fine because they say he flew within 50 feet of a building, even though the owner of the building commissioned him to do the video. He flew within 10 feet of the ground. And we all know how fragile the ground can be. If you hit it, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, goodness me, especially with a foam plane. He flew within 50 feet of railway lines. My God, can you imagine the mess? How frail those cast iron railway lines are, those steel railway lines are. Foam would just utterly destroy them. I mean, this is the kind of stupid folly. Now, if this was a Predator we're talking about, of course, you wouldn't fly a Predator drone within 50 feet of a building. You wouldn't fly a Predator drone alongside a railway line. Hell no. But we're talking a foam flying wing. But because he took money to do the job, it's treated like a Predator. Duh. What are these people smoking in the FAA? But it's not just the FAA. As I said, in New Zealand, the CAA has the same policy, the same attitude. I showed them my little FPV multi-rotor, Ladybird, 50 grams. I said, okay, if I flew this and someone paid me to fly it, you're telling me that I'd be breaking the law. They said, yes. I said, but it's only 50 grams. They said, it doesn't matter. You cannot fly for money without our expressed authority, and you don't have it, so you'd be breaking the law, and we would take enforcement action against you. What is the danger? The worst that could happen with this is that it might land in a baby's pram and the baby would choke on it. But it's not going to cause any damage to property, it's not going to cause any injury to anyone, but it's treated like a Predator drone. That's the stupidity of the policies. So my hat's off to Trappy, because he could have done one of three things when hit with this fine. He could have said, I fess up, I cop the fine, I'll pay it, really sorry, won't do it again. Or he could have said, nah, I live in Switzerland, you're in America, I don't have to pay you a silly fine, I just won't go back to the States. And that would have been an end to it. But what he's done is he's decided to defend the fine in court. He's going to go to court and point out the stupidity of the policies surrounding these model aircraft when they're used for, you know, anything that involves making a little bit of money. He is going to obviously say, this is not a Predator and it shouldn't be treated like one. This is not a Predator. It shouldn't be treated like one. The fact that someone pays me a little bit of money does not turn my model aircraft, my toy plane, into an evil baby-killing Predator drone. It just doesn't happen that way. So these policies are flawed. And it goes even further, because you notice we use the word policy. In a lot of cases, especially here in New Zealand, we're not talking about regulations. We're not talking about law. We're not talking about anything other than policies. Policies are just ideas dreamt up by bureaucrats. Now, the reason we have a difference, or we have regulation and laws, is because laws go through a very, very clearly defined process where they're scrutinised and reviewed and evaluated and checked by people other than those who created them. There's a process, a lawmaking process, and then it goes before Parliament or the Congress or the Senate and it's voted on so that people get to say, this is a bad law, we're not going to pass it, or this is a good law, we will pass it. Policy, no such checks and balances. Policy is some guy sitting at a desk, supping on his coffee, scoffing a donut, going, I think I'll decide this. And that's what he does, and that is the policy. No peer review, no checking, no balance, nothing. He can do what he likes. The thing is that before the courts, as far as the courts are concerned, a policy has no standing in law because it hasn't been through that process. A policy is simply a method for enforcing a law. If there's no law to back up the policy is invalid, and it will be rendered so by the courts. And the thing is that I'm pretty sure in America, but I know in New Zealand, there is no legal definition of an unmanned aerial system. I've been through the relevant legislation with a fine-tooth comb, and nowhere does it even mention the words unmanned aerial systems or the acronym UAS. In law, does not exist, and I suspect it's the same in America. Because over there, again, the FAA are running around like blue-ass flies thinking, oh, how can we control this? How can we regulate this? Oh, we'll make some policies up, and we'll deal with regulation later. So they haven't got the regulatory framework with which to support their policy decisions. So when it goes to court, I really hope, and I'm pretty confident, that the American judges, if they've got half a brain, will turn around and say, I'm sorry, but this is nothing like a Predator drone. It's a toy plane. And they'll kick it out of court. Because the FAA will argue, no, it's an unmanned aerial system. And the judges will say, where is unmanned aerial system defined in the statutes? And the FAA will say, well, it's not, but we've decided that this is what it is. And the judge will say, stop wasting my time, bugger off. Because I know in New Zealand that's exactly what would happen. I hope it'll happen in the USA. So whether you love Trappy for his promotion of FPV aspect of the hobby, or whether you hate him because you believe his practices bring it into disrepute, you've got to say that what he's done has produced an important watershed. It's going to bring this into the national focus. It's going to force the people who are charged with the job of keeping the airspace safe to get off their bums, put down their coffee, stop chewing on their donuts, and make some regulations that will be reviewed, scrutinised, checked, evaluated, and other people will determine whether they're fair or not. That's the important step that's missing right now, because, you know, you've got to be honest, some models are big, some models are heavy, some models are dangerous, some models are fast, some models need to be regulated. I would not condone someone taking a 7 kg multi-rotor, say an octocopter with carbon fibre props whizzing around and flying over a crowd of people. It's just, no, you don't do that. Now, a foam wing like this, not so much of a danger. If you're flying a foam wing like this around a building and the building owner has said go for it, who really gives a stuff? If you hit the building, chances are you'll just turn this into a ball of foam flakes. But even if you break a window, well, the building owner has given you permission, they'll have to fix it. Or you'll have promised previously you'll cover the damage. Simple as that. Now, I don't think we're going to see much action in the court very shortly, but when it happens, it's going to be really important because it's going to set a precedent. If the courts toss out the FAA's policies and their definitions, then suddenly it's going to open the doors. So it's the only thing that might stop Trappy's defence from succeeding is the courts will be reluctant to basically say, free for all, guys, do what you like, because the FAA's policies are invalid. So there's probably going to be some middle ground. Hopefully they'll err on the side of common sense rather than simply protecting the public against a free-for-all. But I think the same thing is going to have to happen all over the world. Hopefully the FAA versus Trappy thing will be seen as a benchmark case and the other countries will follow suit. But I fear they won't. Now, there is a bright light. There's one country that seems to have its head screwed on all this, and that's Australia. In Australia, the people in Kazza, who obviously drink a better brand of coffee and they don't pig out on the calories so much and the donuts, so their brains function, they've said, this isn't anything like a Predator. This is nothing like a Predator. This is nothing like a Predator. These are toy planes. These are toy multi-rotors. They're not going to knock a building down. They're not going to derail a train. So we're going to treat them like what they are. We're going to say, if you've got a model that's under 1.5 kg and you want to use it to do some sort of commercial stuff, then that's fine by us. Because we know that just because you're taking a bit of money, it's not going to increase the risks, and people fly these things every day for hobby purposes. So, you can go to it, but you've got to go to our website and you've got to fill out a little form so you register with us. So we know you're there and we can keep you informed in the loop with any changes that might come along in terms of policy or regulation or whatever. We can keep a dialogue going with you. Very sensible. Smart guys, the people at CASA. They've openly acknowledged that there are so many of these things, so many people using them, and so few of us charged with enforcing our regulations. It's stupid to make up rules that we know people will not follow and that we can't police. That just makes a mockery of the whole process. Yet that's what the FAA is doing, that's what sUAS in New Zealand's doing. CASA got their thinking caps on. Smart people have said, no, we'll stratify things. We'll acknowledge that this is not the same as a Predator, this is a toy, and we'll acknowledge that, up to 1.5 kg, stay away from buildings, stay away from people, stay under 400 feet, stay away from airports, but go and do what you like. Film for real estate, farms, whatever you want to do, get some money for it. We don't really give a shit because, there's no danger to people in doing that. No more danger than if you're flying it for recreational purposes. Now, if you've got something that's a little bit bigger, I think it's 1.5 kg to, 5.5 kg or something, I forget the figures. They're saying, well, that's a little bit more of a risky machine. So you're going to have to do a little bit more work. You need to tell us what your safety policies are. How are you mitigating the risks if you're flying in a certain area? So you do a little safety manual up and file that with us. And, you'll be responsible to make sure you follow your own rules and things. And, that's what they're going to do. That's sensible too, because these people, if you're doing it professionally, you're not going to want to go out and kill people or break stuff because no one will hire you. So they realise that, commercial pressures actually are likely to make people more responsible rather than less. But then, of course, if you've got something that's bigger, if you do have a Predator drone, then they're going to want to make you really, make sure you've got all the right qualifications, all the right experience, all the right training, all the right procedures, because a Predator drone is a pretty dangerous thing. Just ask the bits of an insurgent laying across the desert in Afghanistan. The bits will tell you. They're dangerous things, those Predators. So they need to be strictly controlled. So CASA, big thumbs up, mates. You've done it. You've shown us that bureaucrats don't have to be a bunch of stupid old men out of touch with reality. You've really come up with the winning formula. Let's hope that the FAA and the CAA are watching. But last time I spoke to the CAA in New Zealand, they weren't having a bean of it. No, they've got that not invented now, not invented here syndrome. Oh no, we can do better. We can do better. So we'll just treat everything, including this, like a Predator. Thank you, Raphael, for bringing this to the public's attention. Thank you for putting it to a test before the courts. I wish you good luck. And even those people who don't like what you do and think you're dangerous have to acknowledge that what you're doing now is at least going to give us some surety in respect to what we can and can't do with our models, and hopefully remove that stupid situation where this is considered to be an evil baby-killing Predator drone. If you've got comments on what I've just said, whether you love it or hate it or are totally indifferent, then just say so on the bottom of the video. If you've got, I don't care what your point of view is, express it, because this really needs some discussion. I'm hoping this video will do that. I'm sorry I've prattled on for so long and it's boring and there's no flying and stuff, but it had to be said, and I just wanted to get people thinking. I didn't put this on my RC Model Reviews channel, I put it on XJet because it's a fairly, objective or subjective issue, and people will have opinions. It's not a technical issue. It's not, I try to keep RC Model Reviews for simply the facts and the reviews and things. The XJet's where I have a little rant from time to time, and this has been one of those rants. So thank you for watching. Do chat about it, and if you think the video is worthwhile, tell other people, link to it from other parts of the internet so that everyone gets to have a look and they can have their say as well. It's important we show some solidarity in this issue, and let the regulators know that in most countries what they're doing now just isn't going to work. Bye for now.